Consoles. I mean, who doesn't love them? There's some kind of magic when it comes to buying a new system, plugging it into a TV, turning it on, and only for it to have 1,000,000 to 1 updates. But for real though, it's a special moment in anyone's life. The moment that you show up to a store, tell the worker the console you want, they go and get the thing, scan it, and tell you the total. You swipe the card, walking out the store with something that will bring you thousands upon thousands of hours of fun and joy. Hell, I've experienced it recently with my OLED Switch and my Series X. But something recently changed for me. I want to take you back to the year 2007, when my parents picked up a PS2 and a PC. See, I grew up with basically nothing, other than when my uncle bought 2 Game Boy Advances for my older siblings, and one of my older siblings bringing his friend over with his 360. This was my first true experience with a game console. I remember this vividly, unlike the other times where I was introduced to gaming. This was a proper introduction. I don't remember every single game we had on the PS2, but I do remember a few titles. Herbs, Sims to the City, Sims 2, GTA San Andreas, and Sonic Mega Collection Plus. And I remember spending hours on the family PC playing whatever the fuck Purple Palace was. This, coupled with a few bits and pieces here and there, is what made me interested in video games. And I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of my personal life, but a few years would pass and I would end up living with my mom after my parents got a divorce. In 2013, my brother, not the same one as before, his friend gave us an original Xbox and a few games for it, some cool, some not so. But any game was a game I was willing to try out. A year or so later, in 2015, my sister would give me and my brother, the same one as before, a 360, and my stepdad would give us a PS3, where me, my sister, and my brother would take turns sharing one of the 3 consoles in a cycle. 1 week had us either with the Xbox, the 360, or the PS3. Until Christmas 2015, it was kind of like that. Where my brother's friend, the same one who got us the original Xbox, got an Xbox One and sold my brother his 360, which is now my 360. This was my first ever console that I could say was mine. I understand that you might be confused at the timeline here, as we skipped around from 2007 to 2015. So I'm going to explain it with some form of a sense of clarity to get a better understanding for you. In that time period, I had a very weird and traumatic part of my life. Some of it I don't remember, and a lot of it I vaguely remember. But from 2016 onwards, I remember vividly. At that point, I had a few games for my 360 that I shared with my brother. Most of the time, we would either play Black Ops 2 or Minecraft, but sometimes we would play Halo 4 together. Around this time, I was getting more connected with online play, having an Xbox party chats with either some of my brother's friends or players on BO2. We would later get an Xbox One from the same sister that bought us the 360, or gave us the 360, in 2016. Putting me and my brother and my sister kind of fell out of gaming at this point on current hardware. By January 2017, I had an Xbox 360, a PS3 to my own, and an Xbox One with my brother. At some point in time, I had a PC, but I really didn't get to use much of it. It's actually why my Steam and Discord accounts are almost 10 years old. But I do remember having a PC, just nothing that could play anything crazy. Skipping on to 2018, since 2017 was more or less the same but with different games, like Just Cause 2 replacing Call of Duty, and Minecraft being replaced by Forza Horizon and Sonic Generations and Forces. At the end of that year, me and my brother made a trade. He would get the Xbox One for his PC at the time, making somewhat of a clear push towards gaming on PC. This PC was a potato when I got it, and possibly the worst computer I've ever had. It was a bare bones PC that could barely play mobile games. This is probably the biggest mistake I've made in my life. But for real though, this wasn't even really that bad of a computer, just not something that I could do much with. The computer itself didn't have a graphics card and it kinda chugged, but it was a push nevertheless. It wasn't until middle of 2020 when one of my friends parents gave me my first GPU, and this still the fucking thing didn't really work as much in my favor. And it wasn't much of a powerhouse after that, still. If I remember correctly, the spec sheet was something like an i3 2nd gen with an 8 gigs of DDR2 with a GTS 250. Yeah, slim pickings, but around this time my wife decided to buy me an Xbox One S, and I ended the year with something of a solid base for gaming. In 2021, I decided to start building up my first computer with one of my friends and my stepbrother, buying a Ryzen 5 with a GTX 1660 that the aforementioned friend gave me. We were looking at a solid PC right now. At this time, my wife was looking at buying me a series console, but she couldn't find one that was cheap enough for Valentine's 2021. At this point in time, it was fair to say that I had to split ties between a console and a PC, which is way different than 5 years before, where I only had consoles. I would later sell that PC to the same stepbrother that helped me build it, and I moved in with my in-laws. My brother-in-law bought a Switch for himself, as his old one was garbage essentially to him, and he didn't really want it, so I asked if I could pick it up off him, and he said sure. Shortly after, I moved back home and only had my Xbox One and my Switch. With some scrap parts that I managed to pull together, I built basically the same PC that I had in late 2018, but in late 2021. In early 2022, I had found a Series S that was actually worth the retail value at Walmart and bought it, bringing the Xbox One into retirement. And a couple weeks later, my friend's dad saw the state of my PC and said, quote, "If you throw that fucking thing away, I will buy you a brand new PC." I hopped up, and honestly, I got another shitbox, but a better one. An i5 2400 with 16 gigs of DDR3 with a GT 1030. Not much would change for 2 years after getting that PC, but I replaced my Switch with the OLED model in 2023, and in January 2025, my now roommate and friend of the channel, Flora, got a GPU from one of their friends, and Flora gave me their old GPU. The GPU wasn't compatible with my now old build, and my stepbrother traded me his PC for mine. Yes, you are looking at actual photos of that damn thing. This was a major shift towards PC, because at the time I wasn't paying for Game Pass, and I only had Nintendo Switch Online for my sister playing Pokemon Online. For about 10 months, nothing really changed other than one of my former roommates gave me one of their 3 laptops that they weren't using, and one of them says, "Oh, do you want it?" And while I was connecting it to the internet, I said something along the lines of, "Yeah, but I couldn't buy it off you right now anyway." And before I could finish my sentence, they said, "You can have it." And I told them, "Oh, okay." So now I have 2 PCs, an i7 4790 with 24 gigs of DDR3 and a 1650, and an i7 13th gen laptop GPU with 16 gigs of DDR5 and an RTX 4060 laptop. Why bring any of this up? Why mention it at all? Well, it's for a reason. This year marks my first year where I haven't bought a new Xbox game. Despite Forza Horizon 6 coming out in May, I didn't pre-order this one on Xbox. I pre-ordered it on Steam. And I've always been an Xbox fanboy, so to speak. If you had asked anyone around me, they'd tell you the same thing. Stormy will always support Xbox, but I just don't see a reason anymore. I don't see a reason to pick up a new system or a new console, especially from either Xbox or PlayStation. And this is coming from someone who started playing games on a console, not a PC. With recent changes to Game Pass and its competitor PS Plus, I don't think it's really a good deal to worth subscribing to. I used to buy gold when it was a thing because it was $60 a year. And you might mention, but Stormy, you didn't mention NSO. It's also up there in price, and you would be right if you were only looking at it from a glance. It is kinda pricey for a kid, but if you look deeper, it's not that bad of a deal. Game Pass has 4 tiers: Essential, Premium, PC if you have one, and Ultimate. Essential is $9.99, Premium is what Ultimate used to be priced at $14.99. PC for some fucking reason is $16.49, and Ultimate is a staggering $29.99. These is monthly prices. And I understand that these are in USD and probably different in your corner of the world, but that is insane. And I'm not even talking about PlayStation. PlayStation has a similar system, but they don't have a PC tier. It's Essential, Extra, and Premium. $9.99 for Essential, $14.99 for Extra, and $17.99 for Premium. And these are all monthly too, but they do have 12-month memberships, which are $79.99, $134.99, and $159.99. For people to outright call out Nintendo for their shitty prices for their services, but Sony is charging twice as much, and Microsoft is charging 4.5 times. And no, Game Pass Ultimate doesn't offer a 12-month membership. I did 30 times 12 to get the number of $360. And no wonder people aren't buying Xboxes, and instead are buying PS5s and Switch 2s. It's not like I'm getting rid of my Xboxes either, I just don't see a financially responsible reason for me to buy a game for $120 and then on top of that get a monthly membership for Game Pass where I know I'm not going to use the full extent for what Essential has. While I did want to mention more, I cannot think of anything else right now. And at this point, it's worthless for me to buy games for my Xbox knowing I can't play online without a membership. And I would like to play with my friends, or at the very least with other players online for free. And I'm sorry if I said a lot in this video, and I fully expect this video to get some kind of hate from the fanboys of all parties. But I've said what I said, and I've talked about what I wanted to talk about. It has been fun, but I'll see y'all later. Peace. Look, I know that they said that the video was over and all that, but I did notice something fairly recently, which was that the first 2 games that I bought on Xbox were Sonic Generations and Forza Horizon. The first one, not anything outside of that. And the last game that I bought on Xbox was Sonic X Shadow Generations, a remaster of Sonic Generations. And I recently bought Forza Horizon 6, as I stated before, on PC, not on Xbox, and I don't have a plan to buy it on Xbox. I just wanted to kind of leave that there for many people to kind of see some weird symbolism. I am going to end the video now, though. Y'all have a good night, or day, depending on whatever. It doesn't matter. See y'all later. Peace.